To Burger Town.
Burger Town. I know that smell. Yes, I know it very well. I must be in Burger Town. In and out. Out the pan, just have to shout. A Pink's and Burger King makes you wanna dance and sing. I know that smell, yes, I know it very well. I must be in Burger Town. French fries side, sometimes I have one in the middle of the night. Tommy's Hollywood at 3 a.m. I'm at it again here. I know that smell, yes, I know it very well. I must be in Burger Town.
If you're looking for a mate and you want to make a date with a girl that's never late, we're always at your service.
I was inspired to write Hamburger Heaven because I was nostalgic for my childhood experience of growing up and going to the drive-in with my folks as a kid. That was a very special thing, and the ritual of going to the drive-in involved getting in the car, going out, and having the waitress actually bring the burgers to the car and hang them on a tray right there. And as a child, that was a magical experience. Once I got the idea to write the hamburger book, I started collecting hamburgers and looking all over the place for hamburger memorabilia. And I did my research, and I realized that the hamburger really evolved very gloriously in Los Angeles. The drive-in culture, post-war car culture, was in its heyday in the 50s and 60s in Los Angeles, and it is here that the most grand and glorious drive-ins existed. After World War II, our culture was moving so rapidly, and everybody was out cruising in their fabulous 50s cars, and they needed a place to go, a social gathering place. And as you know, the drive-ins in LA were the burger palaces, and right at the center of that car culture and that drive-in ritual was the hamburger. And it was, the bottom line is it tastes great, and it's very easy to prepare, and it's basic, and it's inexpensive. Basically, it's inexpensive, and I think that, you know, the kids going out looking for a good time and something to eat found that the hamburger was the perfect, handy, fast grab food that the car culture demanded. Plenty of people claim to have invented the hamburger, although there's no proof who actually was the first genius to take a Hamburg steak and stick it in between a bun and make a Hamburg sandwich. There's a few colorful characters along the way in a couple locations in this country who claim to be the first. The inventor of the hamburger is in dispute. We'll never know for sure who that was.
She on down now, I must be in Burger Town.
Stay tuned for a Burger Town moment.
Jack in the Box has a new hamburger. It's called the Jumbo Jack, a 100% pure beef hamburger patty that measures 5 inches wide, shredded lettuce, sliced tomatoes, rings of fresh onion, pickles, a special sauce. The Jumbo Jack from Jack in the Box, a very adult hamburger.
In uniform so neat, each one demure and sweet. What we serve will be a treat. Here's the place to eat.
A drive-in restaurant in Los Angeles by the name of Bob's Big Boy was operated by a fellow by the name of Bob Wyan. I didn't know him personally, but he had a wonderful reputation in the hamburger business there. If I had to describe Bob, he was probably the pioneer of high-tech. He was probably one of the first operators of fast food business that had not only quality control, but portion control. This led to his success because it was a type of an operation that no matter which one of his drive-ins you went to, the sandwiches remained the same. There was no variance in any of the sandwiches. The sandwiches were exactly the same in Eagle Rock as it was in Pasadena. And he might have been the forerunner of all the fast food chains in the United States today.
So one night at Bob's Pantry, his buddies came by, members of Chuck Foster's orchestra. They said, we want something completely different. You know, they were always ordering burgers. So he decided he'd have a little fun with them. He took a sesame seed roll, sliced it 3 times, 3 different slices. Then he stuck 2 patties, burger patties, in between the layers, put on some relish, some lettuce, and garnished it up well. As it turned out, they loved it because the middle slice of bun absorbed all the burger juices, and it tasted great. It became very, very popular, and he became famous for that particular Big Boy burger.
The purpose of the pylon, of course, is to attract attention. It was tall enough, the neon was bright enough so that by day or night you could find out where Bob's was from several blocks away. Plenty of time in order to decide, hey, I'm hungry, hey, I'd really like a Bob's Big Boy, and pull in. Also, of course, next to the sign is the Bob's statuette of the famous Bob's Big Boy, the upswept hair and the platter of hamburgers over his shoulder. This is actually the second version of the Big Boy. The original one was designed by a Warner Brothers cartoonist who happened to eat at the original Bob's Big Boys in Burbank in the 1930s, not too far from the Burbank studios. But he still had the same look, red and white checkered overalls, a plump look, obviously happy with his hamburgers.
I've been coming here for 20 years, the best hamburgers in America. And I brought my friend from Japan here, Akira, and he's only been here for 2 days, and I'm going to introduce him to Tommy's.
There's a fast food establishment in the Los Angeles area that's called Tommy's, and it was opened approximately 50 years ago by a gentleman by the name of Tommy Kolax. One of his selling features on his hamburger was a tremendously large slice of tomato. And this was kind of like a trademark of Tommy's. He also had his own chili. One of the reasons why I believe that Tommy became as successful as he did was that those people that are familiar with the Los Angeles area know that in downtown Los Angeles, there's a tremendous amount of traffic. But just on the outskirts of Los Angeles, where Tommy opened his hamburger stand, this gave the people from working in downtown Los Angeles, the attorneys, the CPAs, whatever it was, the professional people there that wanted to get away from their office, to sneak over about 3 miles over to Tommy's and grab themselves a chili burger with this huge wedge of tomato.
The chili recipe is the original recipe, secret recipe, I might add, that Tommy started in 1946 when he started the Tommy Burger. We make it fresh in each of our locations. Tommy's Hamburgers today is owned by the family of Tommy Kolax. We have 18 locations and we are expanding. It is a family-owned, not franchised, and we'll be continuing to expand at this point.
This particular McDonald's opened in August of 1953. It was the second of the golden arched style units to be built anywhere, and the third McDonald's, including the original one in San Bernardino, to be built. It was run by the same franchise operators for over 35 years, the same ones who got the franchise from the McDonald brothers back in 1953, before Ray Kroc had even heard of McDonald's.
San Bernardino was a blue-collar town, working men's town, and that's what we wanted. We weren't trying to get the country club set to the socialites. This thing we wanted to build reasonable prices, and San Bernardino seemed a logical city to do that in. When we opened with the car hops, that was in 1940, and the opening went relatively smoothly. We had been going through this thing with the car hops, and so we didn't have any problems there. But one problem we began to have was the car hops and the fry cooks. And the fry cooks would want to date the car hops, and if they couldn't get a date, that poor car hops order was a little slow getting to her. But it was terribly slow. It was a slow system, terribly slow. My brother and I would sit out on a lot. And first of all, the customer would come in and the car hop would take the tray out and the menu. Then she'd go back to the drive-in. Then she'd go back out again. They weren't ready to order. So they'd be back and forth a half a dozen times. And the system just, we could see that, you know, we were kind of getting into an age of jet propulsion, and this was really a horse and buggy operation. So that sort of put the idea, we knew we had to do something to speed things up, yeah. Self-service seemed to be coming into its own